heroes we have. I think that we live in direct relation to the heroes and sheroes we have. And sometime at some place inside our hearts, we've got to say thank you. So
the Black Panther.
I think that we live in direct relation to the heroes and sheroes we have. And sometime at some place inside our hearts, we've got to say thank you. So, I honor them, and in honoring them, I honor all our ancestors who tried to stay alive and be somebody so that we could be here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jamie Swift, and I'm the executive director and creator of Black Women Radicals, a Black feminist advocacy organization dedicated to uplifting and centering Black women and gender-expansive people's radical activism in Africa and in the African diaspora. I'm really excited to be the host of the highly anticipated reveal of the Women of the Black Panther Party mural, the first ever public art installation dedicated to the women of the Black Panther Party. The mural is the brainchild of Jilchristina, an activist and a longstanding resident of Oakland, California. Jilchristina was inspired by the powerful artwork that emerged during the uprisings for Black life last year. However, Jilchristina noticed how Black women and girls during the protests and even beyond the protests have been overlooked and sidelined in political discourses. And so in true Black woman radical fashion, she decided to do something about it. A community-driven project, the mural of the women of the Black Panther Party will be forever located on Jilchristina's house, where people can look at and learn about the over 250 names of Black women who fought for the oppressed. The mural is the most comprehensive collection of names celebrating the women of the Black Panther Party in existence. The mural is also dedicated to the Say Her Name movement, a campaign launched by the African American Policy Forum and the Center for Intersectionality and Social Policy Studies that centers the names and lives of Black women and girls who are victims and survivors of gender anti-Black police violence. Now we will hear from Jilchristina Vest and why she started the mural.
I was born in 1966, which is, as many people know, the same year that the Black Panther Party was also born. And I wanted to have that connection pretty early on because I've always been a fighter. I've always been a justice warrior. And the Black Panther Party was something that resonated with me very deeply and immediately, in that I saw these people doing something very concrete about the immediate situation in front of them. I was politicized at San Francisco State when I was there just as an observer, and I had Angela Davis as a professor. Because of her, I enrolled the next semester and continued to take classes with her. And Donna Hubbard and Johnetta Richards and Laura Head and China Soleil and, you know, all of these amazing Black women that were there to activate all of these baby Black women. Like, it was their mission to teach us what we needed to do and what we needed to know in order for us to stand strong and feel proud of the ancestors that we come from. When I got to West Oakland, I fell in love. And what I like to say is I was born and raised in Chicago, but I grew up in Oakland. The vibe of West Oakland and the vibe of Oakland is as big as it is. There's never the loss of this feeling of community here, because when you are around and about Oakland, you run into people that you know, you run into people's families. You saw somebody at the barbecue last week, and that feeling of love and that feeling of recognition and the pride of Oaklanders, like the fierce, fierce pride of Oaklanders, is really powerful. So this mural came into my mind and became a vision in end of May, beginning of June of 2020. And I just remember being in my house and I was pacing and I had a lot of anxiety and I was despondent about the state of America. And is this ever going to end? Are they going to keep killing us in the street? What is it that we can do to stop this? And out of that, I decided that the only thing that was going to counteract my despondency was joy. Something that was giving me joy in those times of May and June 2020 in Oakland were the beautiful murals that were going up. And, you know, on one day at the end of May, I took a walk where I just walked the length of Broadway on my way home. I got a little bit upset thinking, oh, but they're just plywood over windows and they're going to get taken down and they're going to be destroyed. And I was like, I'm putting a mural on my house. And I ran outside and I started taking pictures of this one little wall where I thought the mural was going to be. And that's how it began. The rebellion of 2020, that had never happened before, where that many cities, that many states, and that many countries were rebelling over a 24-hour period of time. So it was really historic. It was really powerful what was happening. The mural then became a part of the fact that they weren't talking about Breonna Taylor to the extent that they were talking about George Floyd. We know this woman was murdered in her sleep, but nobody took to the streets for her.
Breonna Taylor's life mattered. Say her name. Breonna Taylor. Say her name. Breonna Taylor.
So all that dials into the Say Her Name movement that was born out of Sandra Bland, that when she was assassinated, murdered, killed in Texas, it was quiet until a group of women rose up and said, no, we're going to take to the streets for Black women. So when she passed, I had a fierce reaction to that as well, because she was a justice warrior. She was very outspoken. She loved and adored and wanted the freedom of Black people. And she was very clear and articulate that that's what she wanted. That's what I want. That's what the Black Panthers wanted. And when I created that connection of Black women being invisible, Black women fighting for Black people, then it all just kind of fell into place. And wait a minute, you don't ever hear about the women of the Black Panther Party. So why not make a mural about the women of the Black Panther Party, who are clearly the most unseen, unrecognized, unnamed, and unhonored fierce warriors of that time. And their history is our history, and their history will bring us joy. I wanted to find a way at all over these years to thank my community that helped me, thank my neighbors that helped me, to thank the city of Oakland for being the birthplace of the Black Panther Party, and most specifically send a thank you to the women of the Black Panther Party. All of that in addition to changing this tired trope about West Oakland. Are you going to remember the history of gun violence and drugs? Where'd those drugs come from? Where'd those guns come from? That's a different documentary. However, there's so many other things in West Oakland to celebrate. And if we don't celebrate them, who will? It's like the Panthers said, if they're not going to feed these children, we will feed them. If they're not going to put shoes on their feet, we will put shoes on their feet. If they're not going to educate them, we'll open our own school. So this is very much in that line of we need to honor our heroes. If I can remind myself that I come from women like Joan Kelly and Erica Huggins and Cheryl Dawson and Asali Gale Dixon, I come from them. They are my elders. Their stories informed my life. I am fierce because they are fierce. Everybody should know that. And if any little Black girl or any Black woman walks up to this mural and looks up at these 40-foot tall Black women from the Panther Party, and their shoulders go back a little bit, their spine straightens a little bit, maybe they get a little smirk on their face like, that's my auntie, or that's my neighbor, or that's my grandmother, or that could be me. I don't care if anything else happens with the mural. As long as that happens, I will have succeeded in the original vision that I had, because I want the mural to bring joy and to bring pride and to bring connection and to remind us we have freedom fighters fighting for us all the time, and we too can be freedom fighters. They just saw a need and they fixed it. And that's the true definition of a revolutionary as far as I'm concerned.
Now we will hear from Stephen James, a prominent photojournalist during the 60s and 70s whose work is inspirational to the mural.
In 1967, I was a student at Berkeley, at the University of California. And on April 15th was the first San Francisco Peace March to protest the war in Vietnam. And my dad came up from Los Angeles, and we marched together. And along the way, I saw Huey and Bobby selling Red books. And they just kind of captivated my attention. And then when I went back to campus, the Panthers were there. And at some point in that time period, Bobby Seale became a mentor of mine. I mean, I went and took pictures of the Panthers and started hanging out with them. And they liked my pictures and started using them in the Black Panther newspaper. And so the relationship just built. I didn't feel like I was a fly on the wall. I felt like I was part of it. And the Panthers were very welcoming. And so I made a decision that I was going to be the artist of the movement. The government and the media really saw them as a threat. And the media focused on the guns, and the media focused on the violence, and blamed the Panthers for that, when in fact it was really the police and the FBI and Nixon and J. Edgar Hoover that kind of precipitated, 90% of the violence. But what was important about the Panthers is that was merely one pillar of their program. That's what the government and the media focused on. The Panthers were very biblical. I mean, clothe the naked, feed the hungry, take in a stranger. The reason I took a lot of pictures of the women is I think that there were more women than men in the Panther Party. You see in the pictures, there were a lot of the women running the medical clinics and doing the outreach, sickle cell testing and that. The women were very important to organizing the food program. The women were registering people to vote. Women were also carrying guns. Really, I think the genius of them of the party were the programs and also being embedded in the community. The Panthers were 24/7 in the community, organizing and really showing people what life should be like after the revolution. They didn't just talk about it. Their programs were actually a blueprint for what they felt the United States government should be doing for its citizens. The remarkable thing is more than 50 years later, so many of the points in the Panther program still remain to be done. As we know, that this country is going through a crisis in terms of all the statues that honor traitors. Some of those statues are coming down. I think people are starting to recognize that history is important, and it really matters who you honor, because that's who the next generation, that's who the school kids, that's who they're going to study and they're going to look up to. So I was really thrilled when I heard about the mural, and I think it's really important to honor Black women who have done something positive in this country, and there need to be more murals and there need to be statues, and I'm thrilled to be able to be part of it. I thank you for including me.
The images by Stephen James are so powerful and provide important political context to the power of Black women in the party. Now we will hear from the Panthers themselves in their own words.